way, so I don't forget. And we are in our second day, and it is April the 5th, not April the 4th, but you can tell what happens when I copy things. And we already had our opening prayer. Okay, so our 7 steps of creation. We have the light, and I will give you guys copies of this. Since I couldn't get it up this morning, I couldn't print it out for you. But before, at break time, I will. So this is guidance for the new, good, which is faith. So we're seeking guidance. The second step is firmament, which is to affirm the good. And the faculty there is strength. And then the land represents our visualization or our imagination. The light by day and night is your understanding your good and being willing to accept. So the sun represents understanding and the moon represents willingness. So accept the good. You got to understand your good and be willing to accept the good. The fishes and the fowls represent the use of judgment and discernment. Wisdom is that faculty. The creatures and humans are divine love. We have to invest feeling. And the faculty there is love. And then the Sabbath is when it feels done, let it go. Release it. Okay.
So this is a question that's actually coming out of the other class we're doing and the Ephesians thing that we were talking about last night. Since wisdom is most closely associated with masculine energy and love is most closely associated with feminine energy, does that line up here as well? I guess I've never thought of fishes and fowl as being more masculine and animals and humans as being more feminine. So I'm just wondering if it follows through here as well.
Yes.
Okay. It's a different way to look at animals and humans.
Yep. So everybody understand the process of what the 7 steps, how we create our reality using these 7 steps. So we look for the good. We affirm the good. We visualize what it is. We understand the good and be willing to accept it. The acceptance part, so that one's twofold. And the acceptance, sometimes we get stuck and have a lot of challenges around acceptance. Okay? So when we have those challenges, we need to look at that as to why. What's coming up that we need to heal so that we can remove those blocks and move forward. Because any challenges really is something that needs to be healed within ourselves. Okay? And once it comes up, we have to look at it. We can't just push it down. Because when we're pushing it down, we're rejecting our good.
It also doesn't have, I've read opposite things, that some people want to dig back even into previous lives, which I've had done and which is it really helps me in this lifetime, but I think, do we try to overcomplicate that step of healing? Can't we just bring it to the light and say, oh, that got me because that happened and that drug up that old crap, and so I see that, and now I just see it all transformed and recycled back into earth as love. Can it be that simple?
Actually, it is that simple.
Okay.
We complicate it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that when I teach, when I do practice my healing modalities and I teach, one of the things that I teach is our ancestors are already healed. Once we pass from this physical world back into the oneness, everything is healed. So it's not on us to go heal all that family history and stuff. It's already done. What we do have to do is heal it in ourselves. So in the present moment, it has to be healed. The rest of it is already healed. It's our thoughts and beliefs around it that's keeping it here in us. So like Myrtle Fillmore said, you know, she chose to heal herself of the tuberculosis. In reality, she let go of it. She let go of that attachment that she had from her childhood beliefs that she was ill. All right. And when she let go of it, she was able to release it. It was no longer in the physical. So it can happen instantaneously. We complicate it because our ego gets involved. And the ego feels really happy. If it thinks I can go back and change all this stuff from the past, well, guess what? It's going on right now. And it's the now that we live in.
Sometimes I think for me the hardest part about the acceptance is being able to accept that I can understand my own good, accept my own good, and change myself, but I have to be unattached to what other people are doing because their journey is their journey. Mm-hmm. And my healing isn't necessarily going to change their experience. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that can be really difficult when it's people that I truly care about, mm-hmm. and I want things to be different. I can't change what they think and feel, only they can. That's the part where I get hung up sometimes on being willing to accept.
And so that's the part where you have to look at it from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. So you get to love them as they are. Mm-hmm. They get to love you as you are. Mm-hmm. And that's a choice that we make. And knowing that in all the good, they will love you as you are. So you got to let go of that fear so that it will open up the opportunity for them to love.
Well, and I also have to be willing to accept the fact that they know better what their spiritual journey is than I do.
Yes.
Because it's not my journey, it's theirs.
Correct.
And while I would love to be able to guide their journey to save them from pain and suffering and chaos and all of that, you know, I also know that that's where all the growth can sometimes come from. Mm-hmm. So I have to be willing to let that go.
Mm-hmm. We take away their opportunity, don't we?
We try.
Especially as moms. We're really good at that.
Yes, yes.
As parents. You know, and so that's why, you know, sometimes I'll just sit there and my kids will all be saying, you got to do something, you got to do something. I'm like, hey, if you got an issue, you need to go talk to them. Because I've said my piece. I've said what I needed to say, and they get to choose their own path. If you see something that you need to address with one of your siblings, then I suggest you go talk with them because I'm not involved in it.
Yes.
And that, you know, that was just a learning curve for me. I just had to really practice what I preach, even with my kids.
And one of the things that helps me sometimes is to really understand that by wanting to control their journey, what it means is that I'm not trusting them to be able to handle their own stuff.
Right.
Yes. And that's not fair.
Right.
Because if I did a good job of raising them, which, you know, I think I did, they know what they're doing. And I need to be able to trust them to have their own experience.
But that's really hard.
And it is hard.
It's really hard, especially when they're going down the path of destruction. And we have one in our family. It's currently not one of my kids, thank God, but it's one of, you know, my siblings' children. And, you know, we have to work together, but we also get to let go and let them do their job. And when they reach out for help, if they're willing to do what it takes to get it, then we're willing to, you know, help. But until they get to that point, then we're just, okay, we just keep you in prayer and know that that's the only thing that we can really do. You know, and some people
also found putting my youngest son in a role that I didn't want him to think that I needed him to keep making choices that weren't in his best interest so that I could keep worrying about him. Does that make sense?
Yes. Makes a lot of sense.
Abraham Hicks comes to mind when they say, just relax, be happy, find joy, because the work is never finished.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we know that, even in this class or these four, it's not, the work isn't going to be finished. It's ongoing, but that therein the joy lies, I think.
Yeah. And that's it. That's why I said you gotta be at peace with all of it and just live, enjoy, and have fun and be happy. You know, I love that song.
Don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry, be
worry.
happy. Yeah. All right. So here is a more detailed version of that. That was one of the handouts that I gave you. It lists the Bible reference. It lists what the symbol is, what the power of mind is, or the faculty, 12 powers. The formation of the idea. So this is a little different. So and then it also lists the functional expression. So the light, which is the power of mind, is intelligence, is illumination. So the idea is illuminated to us. And then the expression is awareness. So we become aware. And then the dome, which is the firmament, is faith. It's an affirmation. And we decree or make firm. The dry land, which is our imagination, which is the concentration and its focus. Light by day and lights by night, will and understanding, which is choice and comprehension, and it's the direction and knowledge. And then the birds of the air and creatures of the waters, which is judgment. It's our intellect and animalistic thinking, which is discernment. The creatures of the land, including humankind, which is love. It's our emotional nature and our spiritual identity, or the I am Christ. And then the expression is dominion through harmonic unity. Thank you. And then our day of rest, power, which is peace and silence and rest.
Did somebody just make this up? Through meditation and prayer, and this was their brain jump.
Charles Fillmore.
Charles Fillmore.
Yeah.
This is Charles Fillmore.
Right.
Yeah. I love when Ray says, when he's giving his talk, we just made this up.
We do make some of it up. Charles Fillmore, you know, and we do it through this process, though. See, we all do it.
Yes, we do.
Whether we do it knowingly or not is a different story, but we all create through the same process. Sometimes we're aware of it and awake to it, and sometimes we're not. We're asleep. And when we're asleep is when we create and manifest all the chaos and destruction.
Well, and it brings to mind something from the last class, Jenny's question, the second one that she put on Facebook. If you found out that nothing in the Bible was true, would it change anything?
Right.
And the conclusion that we kind of all came to is that it doesn't matter if it's made up. Just because it's made up doesn't mean it's not the truth.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I love things that are cross-cultural, and you know, I have a friend who says, of course the truth all sounds the same, because if it didn't, it'd be a lie. But you know, in these steps, it's really very similar to Buddhism as well.
Yes.
So I think there is some ultimate, I do think there is truth or guidance on this planet, and I do think it can come out through religions, and it can also come out through our own personal intuition. But this is really very, very close, especially discernment, judgment, and at step 5 in love is the discernment is to understand the emptiness of all creation, that it's all temporal, and that is complete compassion, and that we have to have compassion or it cannot be love in the planet. So things like that, I see as I go through this list. I mean, I see a lot of correlation.
And there is. I mean, I think all religions are based in that truth. It's just how have we discerned the truth? How have we seen it?
And that was Charles's, and for the other class, the development of unity, when I was reading my homework last night. That's what I saw Charles did. It said that he tried to find unity among all the religions, and we talked about this yesterday, where we find the grounds of commonality.
Right.
So I do think that, and just a note of interest, on the back side of this handout,
Yeah,
where it says Spirit, see that address?
Uh-huh.
That's where Peter grew up.
Oh, yeah?
That's his hometown in Kitchener, Ontario. And I know where that Unity Church is.
Yeah.
Really? Have you been there?
No, I haven't been to the church.
Oh,
Cool.
cool. Well,
All right.
Yeah, feel like that.
Charles also spent a lot of time in meditation. He spent a lot of time in the silence. So I think that that is really our collective consciousness and our Christ nature, that we can all go there and receive the same thing. I think that he was very guided, though. I have a lot of respect for his teachings.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I mean, he spent hours in the silence every day. He and Myrtle Bow. That was part of their practice. You know, they made that time every day for that work. And, you know, I commend them for that, and I strive for it. And some days I do really well, and other days I let the busyness of life get involved. And it's sometimes it's hard. Once I sit down to do it, I'm fine. But sometimes it's getting to the place to sit down and do it.
And you're such a doer anyhow. You're involved in so many things that would be extra tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what you're doing is
Well,
good.
But without my own thinking,
Yes.
then I tend to not be present always.
I blame you.
So
I teach meditation, so it really makes me be honest, because, you know, if I teach it, then I feel like I have to have a daily practice too, so it informs one another. But I can tell you, on the days that I don't do it, I feel sorry for the people around me.
yeah, and I have a practice every morning that I typically do. There's very few mornings that I don't do. If I don't do anything but just get up and sit in the quiet for a few minutes, you know, then normally I have it where I sit longer. You know, I sit 20 minutes in the morning just in the silence, reflecting. But like this morning, I only sat for like 8 minutes. But I did take the 8 minutes just to center myself and be present. Yeah.
I wish I could do it when I first woke up, but the dogs don't let me. So I have to do it later.
Yeah.
Try not to let other stuff get in the way.
Mhm. I used to do it as, you know, when I woke up in the morning before I actually got out of bed, I would sit there and contemplate. But with Daisy Mae, that's not always the case. She likes to play in the morning.
Gizmo knows the minute I'm awake. I could not even have opened my eyes, and he knows when I'm awake.
They do.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But she likes to play before she goes out.
He's desperate.
No, she wants to kiss me and
Isn't
love
it
on me.
funny that when we know something helps us, I know on the days that I meditate, I'm a kinder, gentler person. And you can exude that Christ love so much more readily when you clear those channels. But even knowing that, I can't say I have a practice every day. Most days, yes. And sometimes it's only minutes, you know, in the car coming down, but you got to be alert to the, you know, it's an hour drive, so I have that hour, but I can't close my eyes and really be in the silence, but I can use it as a time of gratitude. But isn't it funny that when we know that it is beneficial to us, We still don't find time for it as much as we like.
Mhm.
What's the block? Life, I think.
Life.
Earthly life.
Well, you know, I'm just pondering what you said, because for me, it's not the prayer and meditation that, I mean, I know it's really useful, but for me, I know that journaling is
Oh.
really, really helpful. And I am addicted to journals. I buy journals all the time. I refuse to write them. I refuse. They journal, and I do
possibility
this.
of what you could have written.
So,
I've done journaling, I've done intensive journaling, and I know how amazingly transformative it is, and yet I still refuse to do it. And
it's you like I do, maybe. I start talking to spirit. And I've already said what I want to say, and I'm thinking, what?
I don't know.
It's too slow or something. I can't.
I'm not sure what it is. I just
Yeah.
know that I
Yeah.
have the same thing with journaling.
And it would make
So-
you
I
feel
know it-
so great.
I know it
So
works.
one of the
I refuse to
requirements
do
for
it.
this class is to what? I didn't say it yesterday, but it's on the syllabus, and there's a reason why I didn't say it. One of the requirements of this class is to journal.
Oh, poop.
The
So we can do it
reason why,
online, right? I can't write.
yeah, the reason why I don't, in some classes I will, but in this class I didn't make it known specifically that the journaling is required. And that is because it's really hard for me to journal. And I know what my challenge is around it.
What is it?
If you should want to share.
Because I used to journal a lot, I did growing up. And then I had this thought one day, I have all these journals, well, what's going to happen when I leave this planet? And people are going to read my thoughts. Well, they'll think I'm absolutely bonkers. And so I just created this block around journaling. And one of the things that almost in almost every Unity class when I was in ministerial school, we have to journal. It's required. When I was at University of Louisville working on my PhD in classes in psychology, journaling was friggin' required in every class I took, to the point where we had to turn them in to the professors.
Oh. Did they read them or just saw that you did it?
Depending on which class and who it was.
This is bringing up an interesting topic because they're not even teaching writing in schools anymore. Children,
Mhm.
cursive writing. And everyone's using,
Technology.
computers or so it is a very slow process. It's meditative but as children come up, are they even going to relate to writing down anything in a cursive way? We're get dinosaurs in that respect,
Yeah.
So what will the newer generations do?
Mhm.
I mean, yeah.
Do you have anybody, all of us, whether we realize it or not, I'm in this project where I'm trying to find digital pictures of our families from years ago on old computers that I barely remembered the password on, so I can save them.
Mhm.
Well, if I never get that done, who's really going to care? Just the current generation. But all of us really need to have, we're good at making wills, or we should be good at making wills or whatever for those people that are left. But we really need to take care of our online presence. And whether that's diaries, journals, whatever it is, I think we all need someone we trust enough, like your sister-in-law, except she's not here anymore, that we say, this is where these are, and I would really like for you to take this box when I die,
And destroy it.
burn it, and burn it.
Mhm.
Or take off my Facebook page and here's my password.
Yeah.
I don't think of really doing that. Do you guys?
Well, actually, I did it only, I do now, and I wish I would have saved my journals. I did destroy them.
Oh.
And I haven't journaled anymore. But one of the things when my sister passed away, before when we had talked when her husband died of what she wanted for her funeral. And so then when it came time for her passing than she knew when she decided she was going to quit chemo. Then we went back through everything, and in detail I wrote down everything she wanted. And one of the things that she told me, she's like, okay, the journals, there's a box of journals in the basement, and I have 3 that I'm working on in the house. Find them, burn them all.
Wow. Wow.
And so, you know, that's what I did.
So you found them?
I found them.
Oh, good.
And I burned them all. And so that was, you know, and I knew that she had the journals because, you know, that's what we were taught growing up, and we all did it. But I was the one that kind of stopped, which, you know, so that's it. Finding someone that you trust to take this and destroy it, if that's what you choose to do with it, or leave it for the next generation.
And let your family, let somebody else know. I know my grandma, and I know it's not exactly the same thing of the journaling and what you're doing, but when you're expressing yourself and sometimes some feelings come out, when my grandma passed and we were cleaning out her place, we found a couple of letters, or, you know, she had diaries, but anyway, she wrote some things in letters that she never mailed, and a couple of them were just horrible towards my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so here my mom is the one, you know, who's cleaning these out and who found these particular ones, and then her mom's already gone, so there's no, for my mom it was very difficult.
Yeah.
So my uncle and I cleaned out the apartment the rest of the way. We wouldn't let her back in.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yes. Oh,
So,
my.
yeah. And sometimes that's like when you write something down and you don't want anybody to know about it, that's when you burn it yourself for that own expression of cleansing. Okay? And that was one thing I learned through my journaling process. And I have begun to pick it up, not as often as I used to. But so all ministers have, so every minister that I know, that I went to ministerial school with, the 5 of us in my class, we all resisted journaling, and it was hilarious. So it's something about ministers and journaling. We just don't want people to really know who we are. There's your answer.
There's almost the opposite side of that, other than what Jenny said, where somebody writes something horrible and they should burn it themselves. That you know, I've been in teaching situations where I'm the one who's reading the journals. And what
Oh, we lost you guys.
people are not that unique. We all have the same exact problems, and we say it over and over and over again. And so it was a joke amongst, and it wasn't unkind. I mean, it sounds unkind, but amongst people who were reading journals was like, we're just really not that interesting. So we think we're interesting, but we're really not.
Yeah. And that's the truth of it, because we all go through the same challenges.
Over and over
again. So we learn it and move on and let it go.
My grandmother once told me when I was a little girl and kids were making fun of me at school and stuff, and it would tear me up, and I would come home crying. And she once told, she said, what bothers you the most? And I said, I just don't want them to think about me and talk about me like that. And she looked at me and she said, in reality, they probably don't think of you at all. And that stuck with me because that's the truth. Right. I mean, you get caught up in what other people may think, and the truth of it is they're all wrapped up in their own stuff.
Right.
They're not thinking about your stuff or you.
Right.
And I'm a journaler from way back. As a child, that was the only outlet I had was writing. And that's the only place I allow myself freedom. Yeah. I'll write it all down. I don't care, you know, if it's where I'm going, it's free form writing. To me, the free-form writing is the only way I uncover what's really down there. So I don't know. If somebody wants to sit and go through it all, to me it's like that, another thing my mother used to say, be careful what you ask if you don't want to know the answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, if somebody's going to sit down and go through my writing, that you know, maybe I should put a caveat emptor, beware on it. I don't know. I write it for me. That's the point. It's for me.
Right.
Okay, it's for my growth and my understanding. And if somebody's going to get into that, to me that's like spying through a window when you're taking your clothes off. You know, it is. If I allow somebody to read my writing, that's one thing. If they're spying and snooping, oh well.
Yeah.
Be ready for what you see. You know, that's the way I feel about it.
If somebody read what I wrote, I think it'd be like looking at somebody else's travel pictures. You really don't give a rip.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like being worried that you're getting undressed, getting in the shower, and worried somebody else is going to see you scratching your behind. I mean, that's your private area. If they're going to be snooping, looking in that, they're going to see you doing all of it.
Yeah, but when in the final preparations, if you have something like that, you really need to let people be aware of, and that's where you do put beware, you know, destroy or read at your discretion.
Exactly, yeah.
So we might all want to put a disclaimer on them so that people who come and read them know that, you know, it's about us, not about them, because it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I do,
Yeah.
a friend of mine died last year, and she was quite a writer, yoga teacher, and she would write beautiful little stories about people or places or things, and sometimes she would share them with us. Well, after she died, another friend of ours gathered up all her writings and put them in a book and gave them to a few of us. So I have this thick with Judy's writings and beautiful stories and you know, so I feel real gifted in that way.
Right. Good to know too that journaling doesn't just have to be written in words. It's a process where you're reflecting and going inside and expressing. When I went through my divorce, my soon-to-be ex at the time took some of my journals, and there had been one day where he actually spent time with my son, and I was so touched by it that I wrote about it in my journal. So when we were in the custody thing in court, he stole all my journals, and he had this read in court about how he spent this time with my son.
Oh no!
And made it look like this was the always, but the reason it was in my journal is because it was the exception.
Oh.
And after that, I haven't really been able to write journals, but I've gone to the visual. So more scrapbooking and smash books and sketchbooks and that kind of thing. To me, that just feels safer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
There's Robert.
I had somebody once say to me that, you know, if you see yourself as a writer, then why would you write anything you don't believe? And I thought to myself, you know, that's odd, because it's kind of like the way you live, the way, you know, everything you do is not who you are, or what you do is not who you are. And to be a writer means that you write it all out. The argument that goes on with yourself, I mean, you're writing all that out. You're going from one extreme to the other. You're bouncing all over the place. It's not a true representation of what you believe of who you are. Now, if you can refine that and put it in a book format, then that might be a true representation. But what just comes out on the paper is kind of like, to me, it's kind of like throwing up, getting it all out. You know, it's my safe place.
Yeah, it's a part.
So,
but then doesn't that make it true in the moment that you're experiencing and writing it?
Yes.
Even though it's...
No, I don't think it makes it, maybe, you know, I don't think it makes it true. It's not true. I look back through it later and I think, my goodness, I can't believe I felt that way. And that's not who I am, and it was not right of me to feel that way, but it was a feeling, and it was something, and maybe, you know, I'm sure in Unity, you know, in Unity thought, if you have the thought, it's there anyway. So is it any more tangible or less tangible because you put it in print? I mean, maybe the point that someone else could come across it and could read it, but to me, you know, when I journal and when I write, that's my safe place, and some of the stuff I write is so far removed from who I am. It's just an emotion of the moment that I was getting out.
Yeah, you're using it as a purging process, which is what a lot of people do. Okay, we're going to go on. Capture class back. Wow. Capture class back here. So I was going to review a little bit on what we talked about yesterday because we only got through one step, and today we haven't gone through any. So I'm going to do this really quickly. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the lightness from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day.
So based on that, is it only the light that's good, or is the dark good as well?
I would think both is good.
Well, I always thought so, but the way it's written, you could maybe take it the other way.
Mm-hmm. Could be. Yeah. But I think everything is good. Yeah.
Me too.
Because in the darkness comes the light. From the darkness comes the light. So it's an understanding and will working together.
For me, darkness is much more peaceful.
Could be. Well, now we're going to look at, because we didn't really get to this yesterday, let's look at the meaning of evening and morning. So there was evening and there was morning the first day. What does that mean?
To me, it means that we move into understanding. So the evening is, you know, the peace and the calm and where a lot of that growth happens. But then the morning is where we can then incorporate it in and understand it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Put it into practice.
Okay.
I think there's a reason for that phrase, sleep on it.
Okay.
Because your subconscious works on that while you're asleep, and you do feel like it's sorted out in the morning all by itself.
Okay.
There was beginning and completion in one
Okay.
time period.
All right.
To me, it represents, or similar to what Jenny said, it represents a raising consciousness.
Okay.
Evening is usually darker, morning is lighter, and it's you know, it's the raising consciousness from unknowing to more knowing.
Enlightenment.
All right.
They say it was the saying that you said yesterday about it being darkest before the dawn. Well, to me, this is like the dawn after the darkest.
Okay. Okay, so, and there was evening and there was morning the first day. The evening represents completion, okay, and the morning represents the activity of new ideas. So everybody was right because you're in completion, so you're at peace, and then with the new day comes new ideas. And so it's new activity, raising that consciousness up. So moving from one place on the spiral to the next place.
And you have to have completion before you can move on to the next step.
That's
like
correct.
Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle. Well,
It represents the spiral.
Spiral as you're moving upward. Okay. Oh, here we go again.
They're back.
Did you guys miss that, didn't you?
Are you guys there?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm just muted.
Yeah.
I keep it on mute.
Did you guys hear what we said about the evening and the day? Okay, because it came up that we lost y'all.
No, we're here.
Okay. So then, this is the whole secret of progress. So that little section right there reveals the light or inspiration of spirit. When one step is complete, as Robin said, we are ready to move forward. Steps are taken one at a time in an orderly and harmonious fashion. And this is really, this process has really made me understand something about myself, and that I can only do one thing at a time. So
kind of makes multitaskers.
Mul-
That's why they're so ineffective.
Yes, and I have always been a multitasker and been what I thought was really effective. But I have found, and I've been very successful as a multitasker, but what I have found is that when I focus only on one thing at a time, I am a lot more powerful.
You're not diluted.
I'm not diluted. Right. I'm a lot more powerful.
Yeah.
But in our society, we tend to create multitasking as a way of life. We even teach it.
Kind of glorified.
Yes.
You know, the person that's reading 5 magazines on their way to work while they're driving. You know?
Right.
Wow, look at that.
So really, well, and to me, because of the work I do outside in the community, and when I'm working with families and children, and I see this sea of ADD all around me, and it's like, I get it. Okay. Yes, we can only focus on one thing at a time. And when we teach that, we are so much more powerful, not only as individuals, but as working in a community together. It's really become enlightened in the last year for me on this.
One of the most helpful mantras I've ever learned, I really call on it when I'm overwhelmed or in a tizzy or just feel like there's more than I can do, is just breathe and take the next correct step.
Right. Right.
And sometimes it just feels really good to have one thing done.
Even if that thing is a nap, it's okay.
Even if, especially if that thing is a nap. But, you know, I get so frustrated sometimes when I'm trying to get 17 things done all at the same time, and nothing ever is complete.
Yeah.
It's so nice to just sit back and pick one thing and finish it.
Yes.
Do you know our brain actually releases dopamine when you do something as simple as crossing something off a to-do list?
Yes.
Wow. And I read someplace, and I think it may have been on Facebook, that one of the reasons why in the military they teach you get up, you make your bed, because if nothing else goes right the whole rest of the day, you can be proud of the fact that your bed is made, and when you get ready to go to bed, getting into a bed that has been made is so much better than crawling into a bed that wasn't. So if nothing else, make your bed every morning.
Yeah. And that's something that I do religiously, with very few exceptions. Well, what was really funny is that Easter morning, I got up a little later and was running around, and I didn't make my bed. And my daughter came in to help to drop off food before she came to church, and she was like, what is going on? The bed is not made. So she had to go in and make my bed, because that's just the habit that everybody, and when I got home, she's like, Mom, what was going on this morning? Because your bed was not made. I'm like, okay, I was going to do it when I got home. Well, I did it. But something just simple that you get in that habit and you teach. I mean, because you're right. I feel so much better when I walk into my room and my bed is made and everything's orderly. And
I feel that way about the kitchen sink. That like sets the tone for my whole house.
yeah.
If you get a chance,
A Buddhist friend of mine says that the state of your bed is the state of your head.
Yeah.
I'm a mess
wow.
then. Yeah.
That's cool.
Read flylady.com. Go there.
Flylady.com.
And she talks about the value of scrubbing your sink clean and
Love
leaving
it.
it that way. But she's like the same thing. Getting something done gives you the energy to move on.
Yes. You know, and I think that's what it was with with us growing up, is that, I'm writing this down,
I'm going to make sure it's still active.
that it was easier for us to do it than for my mother to make 3 beds. But you don't think about that when you're a kid, All right. I know when I was raising my kids, it was easier for them to make their beds than for me to make their beds. So.
Well, and at some point, you have to know how to do laundry. You have to know how to make a bed. You have to know how to cook. You have to know how to do all of those things to take care of yourself, unless you just decide you're going to find somebody to do it for you, which is not real powerful.
Right.
So teaching a kid to make their bed when they're young, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if they know how to do it, it serves them well later in life.
Yeah, it does.
And I lied. It's flylady.net.
.net? Okay.
What is that?
It's how to get things done. It's how to organize your house and clean and
Motivation when you need it most.
All right.
I need to write that one down.
All right. So then the 6 days represent different stages of development or degrees of development. So each of these days represents a different stage of our own personal development. All right. So we're going to get into day 2. And God said, let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome, and so it was. God called the dome sky, and there was evening and there was morning the 2nd day. So what's your interpretation of that verse?
flip back to the
It
verse.
reminds me of that handout I think I gave some of you that shows how they thought the dome, the sky was up here, the dome, and here was Sheol down below. And I know that's not metaphysical, but it made me think that's how they saw, the world.
That is how they
back
saw
then.
the world.
Yeah.
So we know that it means it's a firmament. What else is it? What else is in there?
To me, it's almost representative of the fact that there's a level of consciousness at this point, and then there's a level of consciousness at this point, and in between is where the work happens.
Right. Yep. There's also a meeting of the 2 points. So it's at 2 levels of who we are, the physical and the spiritual. Okay. Okay. I had to look up what firmament was last night because it was driving me crazy. I knew what they were saying, but I really didn't know the definition of it. So I looked it up. And it's used as the translation in the Hebrew, which the original writings, rake, the word means expansion. So it denotes the space or expanse like an arc appearing immediately above us. They who render rakeia by firmament regarded it as a solid body. The language of Scripture is not scientific but popular, and hence we read of the sun rising and setting and also hear the use of the particular word. It is plain that it was used to denote solidarity as well as expansion. It formed a division between the waters above and the waters below. So I just had to look up what that real definition was that we were talking about. So I put it in there. So the firmament is the quality or attribute of faith, which we already talked about. It is faith in knowing the quality of our mind. The word is instantly fulfilled in spirit, and God made the firmament. So in spirit, everything is instantaneous. It's in our mind that we have to work on knowing that it's already done. And that's why in the verses you see, and so it is, which is one of the things that we say in Unity a lot. A firm place in the midst before the mind can unfold and accomplish its mission of expressing God. So it gives us that solid foundation that we need to springboard to express as God. That faith, that foundation of faith, we have to have that before we can springboard into expression as God.
So when we say, and so it is, talks about the fact that it's instantly fulfilled in spirit, and then if we add in so we let it be, that speaks to the fact that in our minds we have to allow it to express.
That's correct.
Boy, I don't like that.
Okay. Water.
Can you repeat that?
Will you repeat what you said?
Yeah. And so it is speaks to the fact that in spirit everything is instantaneous. And so we let it be speaks to the fact that we have to allow time in our mind to allow it to express. And it also speaks to the fact that we have to get out of the way and let it happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the waters represent the unexpressed possibilities in mind. Above the firmament is unexpressed capacity of conscious mind, resting in faith in the divine mind. Below the firmament are the unexpressed capacities of the subconscious mind. Okay, so above is the divine mind. So we're meeting here in the middle in our physical body, and you guys can't see me. So we're meeting here in the middle, and above is the conscious mind, and below is the subconscious mind. And then we have faith to bring forth the invisible.
That's really pretty. I see this primordial mist swirling around us as we just see the gauzy face of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And we literally have to get our legs under us and understand what's going on with ourselves before we can even begin to have a tentative step on firm ground.
Yeah.
And we grow from that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Isn't the Bible interesting now, Carla?
Parts of it. When we get to the bashing women today, I'm not going to be happy.
Okay, so when
One of the things that I wanted to say too about the firmament and all that, you know, I'm an energy healer, and one of the things that I work with is the etheric body and the astral body, and I could see that very easily connected, that that we have to clear in the etheric body of ourselves and the planet before things become manifest.
Oh, that's a must. Yes. That, you know, as a healer, a lot of times in the physical body, things can be healed instantaneous, but we'll hold it in the outer body. Mm-hmm. And so because we have a hold on it in the outer body, we haven't let it go there, it comes back in. Or it can be the other way. We let go of it in the outer body, but we're still holding on to it in the physical body. So we have to work to clear both bodies, the spiritual and...
I see that in my creative process too. Like Donna, I also write and I paint too. And there's lots of things that I know are almost coming out into the consciousness. It's almost ready to express. And I have to maybe get there in some very weird ways, but you know, it'll eventually get there. But I just trust that process. And, you know, one of the things that helped me more than anything else, especially in painting, was there's always a chaos phase. There's always a phase where it doesn't look like it's going to come together. And just by keeping doing the work, by keeping applying energy to it, it will come through. So yeah, I will be able to tell you after this party on Saturday how that theory comes out.
Okay. Yeah, and I kind of see it. It's almost like a combine when it combines up all the stuff in the fields, and then they have to go through and separate. You know, they have to take out all the trash, so they're left with the good seed, or separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, that kind of thing.
Well, what I'm
That's
so
what my
proud of
writing's like.
in Indiana is that so many of the tractors are guided by satellite.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, they're guided by satellites. And they just put in it, and like however much fertilizer is getting put in, how much seed, how much water, it just goes by. And then the college kid has the job. All they have to do is turn the combine at the end of the field. But everything is guided by the satellite now.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
The interconnection gets vast.
Yep. Does everybody need to take a break here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a break. I'm gonna.
So, Robin, can that be our final project in that class?
He said that we can write the story of what happened to Charles when he was with the Indians for that day. And that can be our.
I think that'd be fun.
Oh,
Yeah. So I had dreams about it last night. I just
Oh,
need to
you
remember
did?
them and write it down.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, unless something else comes up in the next 4 days that
Mhm.
sounds more exciting, but I can't imagine what it might be.
okay. So, when we are distraught or fearful, let us affirm, let there be firmament, let faith come forth to give stability to my being. That came out of let there be light, and I just really like that.
Mhm.
So let there be that foundation, let faith come forth to give stability to my being. Okay. So, they're coming. We'll wait for Sally to come in. And I have to put it in nuts. And God said, let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let dry land appear. And so it was. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were generated together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. And so it was. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. So what do we have? Expression.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, and seeds always, to me, have represented divine ideas because
Okay.
that's what everything grows from. And so it's like every divine idea that I have, I know is mine, because you can't have a divine idea, or, you know, you can't plant an orange seed and get an apple tree.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I have a divine idea, I know that it's mine, because I can only have those seeds that will grow the fruit that I'm intended to give.
Okay.
Mhm.
Bearing fruit with the seed in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking this is probably where we get that expression, the seed doesn't fall far from the tree.
Oh, you think?
I think maybe.
Okay.
It's funny, when I have an idea, I never think it's a divine idea because it's mine. I guess I've struggled so long with self-worth that the only way I get worth is out of the oneness. You know, it's divine ideas. I'm an expression of divine ideas, so that makes me okay, and I've worked really hard on that for the last couple of years. But if I've got an idea, it's not really my idea, it's God's idea being expressed in my mind. I wouldn't think, oh, that's my idea.
Well, and I think we're saying the same thing, because when I'm talking about a divine idea being mine, I'm talking about the fact that it is a divine idea. It's coming from God, but if it's coming into my mind, then the intention is that I will be the person to express that into the world. It's not my idea, it's God's idea. But if it's coming to me, then it's mine to express.
Mm-hmm. And if you choose not to express it, what happens?
It keeps coming. Well, it can, but it keeps coming back.
It keeps coming back, but it will also be given to someone else, and they may pick it up and create the expression.
The ground, like the ground of our being, must be fertile to receive the seed in order to express what needs to be expressed. And, you know, if our ground is not fertile, we're not receptive. No.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
The book that I just am reading, one of the ones I just read from that I mentioned yesterday, she talks in depth about that, the one called Big Magic, and I believe that totally, that ideas are like things, and they're like spirits, and to me, you know, when you're given an idea, or it is divine, it is from God, and it is something that's almost like a living, tangible thing, and when you pass on that idea in some manner, it's probably visited on several people at once anyway, and, you know, created in so many different realms that you don't even recognize that one idea has created all of that, you know. So yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, I don't think it's right, like, you know, if you say, you know, if you write something out totally, or if you start functioning to create something and someone else walks in and just takes that from you without your knowledge, now to me that's just not right. That's like breaking in your house, you know. But I do believe, yeah, what's that?
I've also heard it said that if you have an idea, if you feel like you have an idea, a creative idea, and you don't follow through with that idea, it's like having a creative abortion, is what they say. And I thought, wow, you know, that's pretty, you know, you're being inspired and you don't, you know, listen, or I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that to a point. I think it's like, to me it's like artwork or something, though. An artist or a writer, and I mean, I'm sure Shelley being an artist, she might, I mean, sometimes there's things you start that like, especially with my writing, you know, I've got stories, I've got songs, I've got stuff that started, this album I've just put out, everything on there, most of it is, they're lines from 25 years ago. They grow. It's like you plant something, you water it, you let it sit there, and it grows over the years. So yeah, it just depends. I mean, yeah, if you abandon it totally, yeah, then it is like that. But to me, it's also, you can collect, I don't know, Shelley, any of your artwork, do you ever start artwork and just come back to it later, leave it set and come back to it later?
Sure. I mean, there's sometimes where I've got an idea and it's got to be expressed, and it's so powerful that I'll have that piece done in just a couple days. And then there's others, like right now, I've got 10 pieces I've been working on since the fall. It's just,
yeah. So yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Sometimes I think they have to grow. It's like a tree may take 100 years to reach its peak, you know, but sometimes it takes time.
I have to do that too, whether I'm in writing or painting. I have to do something and then I have to put it down and then come back to it later. It's almost like, you know, the pot has to cook. And then I have to come back with fresh eyes and look at it. That's just a normal part of creation for me.
Yeah.
You know, for me, when I'm in that zone of creation, I feel non-dual with God. I mean, to me, that's a very God place. It's not like God gave me the idea. It's just that I am in that expression, and that's how I experience God in the moment.
Okay.
For me,
Yeah, I've called it my mad scientist phase sometimes when you get an idea, like Shelley was saying, and you can't stop.
And I think one of the things that's really important for me in all of this is that, you know, like I said, when I get a divine idea, I know that it's mine. And what that, and sometimes I'll get ideas and I'll think, oh my God, how am I ever going to be able to accomplish this? Because I have no clue. But what I know is that the idea is in my brain, there is a way for me to do it, and I don't have to know how. I just have to know that I get to take the first step. And that's, I think, the most important thing for me, because I've had ideas where I look at them and go, absolutely, there's no way that I would ever be able to accomplish that. None whatsoever. And then I've given up on it.
Right.
And that's the spiritual, you know, the abortion.
Right.
But for me, one of the things that was the biggest thing for me to learn was that if I can think it, there's a way for me to do it. I don't have to know how. I just have to know that there's a way.
That's correct. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to have every little detail. All we have to do is accept it. You got to understand it, what it is that we need to do, and we have to accept it. And that's really what, and take the step. Okay, one step at a time.
You can look at the authors. Haven't you guys read? Like I remember reading a Deepak Chopra book and then reading a Wayne Dyer book, and they were written within a few years of each other, and they were presenting the same idea in a different way.
Right.
And I think the Spirit uses that. It takes that one idea, but gives it to several authors so that idea can reach more people. I think that's a divine plan.
Yeah. Well, that's the race consciousness. Everybody tapping into that. What is the highest and best good for humanity? So it's if you're working from that source, what's the highest and best good for humanity? Then you get that synchronicity.
Yes. That's a great word. I love that. Synchronicity.
Okay, so we did that.
It's a great police song, too.
So the third step in creation begins the formative activity of mind or imagination. So if we can imagine it, we can build it. The imagination begins a great multiplication of forms and shapes in mind. Okay, so it stirs up all of this creative power that we have. And it begins to form, and it'll do it in multiple ways, 10 different ways for what your artwork that you're doing right now to be expressed. When used rightly, it imagines or images the perfection of God. This is expression. So how is God expressing through me? Is a question that we can ask ourselves when we're in that spot of, wow, overwhelm. You want me to do what? You know, and I talk with God a lot. Sometimes probably in a way that was, you know, and so I have to ask, well, how am I going to express this? How do you want me to do this? I don't have a clue, so you better show me the way quickly. I mean, if this is what we're going to do, then okay, I'm on board, but you better bring in the bees because I don't have a clue. And that's what happens. So just being willing to understand and know and take the step as expression and know that you don't got to do it by yourself.
I don't remember which one of our prosperity classes it was, but we talked about if you know how to do it step by step by step, your goal probably isn't big enough.
Mm-hmm. If you can do it without help from God, then you're not dreaming big enough.
That's right.
The goals that stretch you are the ones where you have to rely on that faith that you'll know how to do it when you get there or have those resources when you get to that part.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right now I'm wanting to create a meditation garden at the new office, and I've never done this before. I know how to meditate, and I know some things about gardening, and I years ago helped a friend create a labyrinth, and I'm part of Time Bank, and it's like hoping that it all comes together. And one day last week I was over at the office, and when I went there was a note on the door from somebody at Time Bank that's a master gardener that's part of the Time Bank, and saw my post there, and I want to create this garden. She's like, let me help you. I'm like,
oh my
yes.
gosh. Wow. Wow. That's awesome,
Yeah,
Shelley.
the Time Bank is a great
Prosperity.
Wow.
process. We need to do more of that.
Yeah, that really taps into the collective skills that everybody has in the community, and you meet great people.
Right.
Donna Phillips started in on that when it was just being formed in Louisville.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I actually was in the
She's a big
beginning of
part of
it, but then never, through all of my stuff that was going on, it was just one thing that I couldn't be in at the time.
We're too far in the boonies, and there is no such thing where we live.
Well, we can create one. We talked to Stephanie Garnett. So it is about expression. And, when we get these divine ideas, it may not be ours to do alone.
Right.
So, look at that, the collective. And that's one of the things I'll tell God. I say, okay, if this is what we're going to do, you better bring in the forces, because I don't have a clue what's the next step. You better show me the way. And pretty typical, it'll just line up. And sometimes my biggest issue is in the waiting, patience, for it to actually be formed in the physical. Because there's things that have been percolating for a while now. And I'm like, okay, can we just get on with it already? And I know that it's going to come through and into that formation. It just took a shift in characters and themes and things and everything. But now it's like, okay, now can we just birth it to the next level? So mine sometimes is in the patience, because yes, it can happen instantaneously in the moment, but everybody else has to catch up with us when you're doing the collective work.
I find sometimes that I'll have a divine idea, and it's just doesn't seem like a real big thing, and so then I'm in judgment about whether it's really a divine idea and whether it's really something that's important. And the ego gets in there and says, and it happens a lot when I see things like Shelley's paintings, and then I look at my prayer shawls, and it's like they're not on the same level. That is so amazing.
I feel the same way about your prayer shawls.
And
I'm
so
sorry.
So the judgment of the ego can really get in the way of the expression of the divine idea if we start to think that it's not big enough or important enough or...
Yes, it can. And that's where you have to go to discernment.
And, the awareness of the fact that the divine idea, it's important. It doesn't have to be huge.
That's right. It doesn't.
Not all of us can birth the Messiah. Somebody had to birth John the Baptist.
That's right. Yep.
Somebody had to birth all of the people who followed.
Somebody had to build that manger.
Exactly.
It was a cave.
Shovel the crap.
It was a cave. That's right. Yeah.
And by the way, Robin, your prayer shawls are amazing. The one I have has seen me through lots. So give them some credit.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's funny how we get the thing that comes next is a spiritual gift, doesn't appear as a gift to us
Yeah.
because it's easy for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
How important can it be if I've been doing it for 50 years? Pretty
Very
damn
important.
And Carla's an incredible cook.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do any of that.
Yeah, but you can cook.
Holy
cow.
So what? Anybody get good?
No, they
That's
can't.
not true.
Believe
It
me.
is not true.
But we do. You know, when you meditated about, I had to go in meditation and say, okay, what the heck is my gift? I don't have a daggone clue. And you know, that was when I really first got an answer and said, your gift is encouragement. It's not a small thing. It just seems small to you.
Exactly.
That really helped me.
Right. Well, and I think for many of us, especially for women, because, you know, these are just things that we're supposed to do, it's like, well, if I can do it, how important can it really be?
Yeah. Isn't that awful? Isn't that terrible?
It
Wow.
is. Because
Wow.
every gift is important.
It's very important.
Yeah, let me clean that. Thank you.
It is very important. And that's just coming into, and that's learning to accept our good. Okay? And being okay when the good is simple. It doesn't have to move mountains. It can, but we have spiritual gifts. There's not just one.
And you never know who it's going to move a mountain for
That's right.
as you present yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I'm guessing the person who first figured out how to make chocolate out of a cocoa bean thought it was no big deal. So not true. Or the person who figured out that if you grind up a coffee bean, it makes this incredible elixir of the gods,
Mhm.
and thought it was no big deal. Also not
The
true.
longest time they ate the grounds and threw the liquid away. That was a long time coming around.
Yeah.
So,
They
you
would
never
ground it
know.
up and then put it in the liquids to soften it until somebody decided it was probably too hard, and they probably didn't have teeth, and so they thought, well, how can I get this? So they probably put it in water to soften it up and realized that, wow, wait a minute, we're missing the whole boat here.
Yeah, I think a lot of times you may be, you know, you may have a gift that is like Reverend Ray said, you take it for granted because it's like if you were born being able to levitate and you didn't know other people couldn't do that, you wouldn't think anything of it.
Right. Yep. Okay. So the formative power of mind represented by the dry lands. There is much unformed thought in mind in the heavens that must be separated from the formed. Earth here is the mental image of formed thought and does not refer to the manifest world.
The mental.
Do we have these handouts somewhere, or you're going to make them first?
I will make them for you.
That's right.
I was trying to do it this morning before I got,
I got you. Thank you.
before I had a little chaos going on in my mind this morning. So therefore, you know, but it was all here. And as soon as I took a breath and realized that it's all good, it, you know, it appeared. It just happened to be day 3 instead of day 2. All right. So the C's represent the unformed ideas. Thoughts are not in line with principle. So when the C's are swarming, our thoughts are not necessarily in line with principle. They have to calm in order for us to bring them in line into reality. C can produce, and it comes under the domain of imagination.
So C is just remember, like, liquid thoughts.
Yeah. So liquid thoughts that are out there, but they're not formed. You know, it's that process of, you know, this thought will come in and it's like, wow, that's weird. And then another thought will come in that kind of helps firm it up a little bit more. And then you keep getting the process. So it's that, you know, the firming comes little by little So it's like taking the flour and the water and mixing it together with some salt to create Play-Doh. And you got to keep, mixing this stuff up until it becomes really firm. And the seas, that swirling thought process, how the sea will go up and down and the waters move.
Well, and it strikes me, what I'm thinking of is, if you've ever seen the movies of the undersea, with the swarms and schools of fish, and they'll be going this way and then they'll all go this way.
Yeah.
And then, that really strikes me as how my brain works sometimes. But the other thing I was thinking was when we're studying the theory of evolution, the whole thing is life began on land as something crawled out of the sea.
Yes.
And that's how we create.
Right.
You take the idea in the sea and it crawls up on the dry land and grows legs, starts to move and morph, and then it becomes something else.
Yep. Very good.
So the theory of evolution is actually a spiritual practice as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Because of what the theory of evolution has done is taken our process and created it outward and manifested into the world, which is what this process is the same, so they work together. It's just two different perspectives.
Right.
So this is evolution in thought in one respect. And then there's the scientific evolution.
Right.
And depending on what vibration we are as we're swimming in that sea of primordial ooze
Yes.
is what we're going to be able to
See, attached to.
manifest. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like Velcro. Some of it's going to slip right by me because I ain't ready for that yet.
Right. And so when we get into the conversations with those that may not be awake,
Yeah.
then, just kindness and love and compassion really comes in.
It's amazing, when I think of evolution, I think of the spirit moving, and the spirit moves and, completes and moves on. But, those fundamentalists would not even see God in the whole process. And that's the problem. They don't see God in the whole process of evolution. So.
That's because God doesn't express through them necessarily.
Yeah.
The word is giving from man to them.
Right.
So the difference really is between they receive from man and are not totally responsible for and have a detachment to the word. Versus you experience and express spirit and are accountable and involved. And that's the evolution of humanity.
The continuation.
And so there are people at all levels. Even in our fundamentalist, they sit in both worlds. They just have a lot of fear on letting go of what they're comfortable with. It's not that they're 100% bought into it. It's that there's fear keeping them there because it's comfortable, it's known, it's part of their belief, it's part of their philosophy, it's part of the culture. And if they step outside of that, then they get excommunicated virtually. So they get sent out of the desert, into the desert land. Just like the Israelites did. They got sent out into the desert land, and that happens in small communities when you no longer believe that way. That's scary. Doesn't make them wrong. It makes them just in a state of stagnation.
Do you think like I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of it comes from like this human tendency to understand things from where we are. So we anthropomorphize things.
Yeah.
Like we attribute these thoughts and feelings to our pets, and we attribute to God the ideas that we're made in God's image, so God must be like us, and only understanding God from the point of view of who we are, and then that limits who God is and the divine that you can tap into.
Right.
It also limits who we are.
Yes, it does.
And I can understand how it can be very scary to step into something brand new, especially if you don't have an understanding that there are other people who may think the same way, and you think you're just going to be out there all alone.
Yes. You're going to be in the desert all by yourself because nobody else thinks like me.
That's why we're so glad when we come to Unity. It's like, oh my God, I'm not nuts.
You feel like you're home.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these are the people I'm going to wander in the desert with.
Yay.
Go.
And there are more and more spiritual communities that are growing and changing their thought process to be more in line with unity. Even the fundamentalists, some of them it's shifting.
And God still works there.
And God still works
Absolutely.
He's
Since
everywhere.
there is no place where God is not.
That's right.
God
That's
is there
right.
as well.
And
Probably
I've
going,
seen
not
God
where you're
there.
thinking, but, you know.
And I've seen God there. Coming from a fundamentalist background with my grandmother and grandfather being so immersed into an old regular community, I've seen it. It's kind of scary, but I've seen it.
This is neat.
It was scary for a young lady to see people that only know one language speak in tongue. That's scary. But that was their way of expressing God. The Holy Spirit moves in and through me, and that's their experience of it. And it wasn't wrong, and it's not wrong. It's their experience of God.
And why should we think, any of us, that God will only express in one way?
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we're so concerned with just our planet when there's billions of stars and solar systems and who knows,
Okay.
so focused on our earthly.
We are.
Some of us are, and then there's so many people that just aren't even worried about the planet at all.
Yeah,
right.
that's true.
Well, that's true.
At the same time, they don't even think about the planet.
Yeah. So we have divine mind, imagines, ideas, definitely, and in every detail. Ideal precedes fulfillment, and let there be represents the perfect confidence necessary to demonstrate.
Let there be. Wow.
Let there be. We're going to end here.
This is a beautiful lesson today. Thank you.
Oh, well, there's a little more. Ideas are productive and brought forth after their kind. They express under the lace of divine imagery. Seed is within the thought and reproduced through thought activity until thought habits are formed. Boy, I was tired then. Thoughts become fixed in earth are formed consciousness. Divine mind, all is good. A degree of mind unfoldment has been attained. Man in forming his world goes through the same mental process, working under divine law. Jesus said, the seed is the word of God. And so it is.
And so we let it be.
And so we let it be. All right. So that's it for today.
Examples abound.
All right. Is everybody still with us? I love you. I bless you. And I behold the living Christ in each of you.
Oh, that's true.
All right. We're off to the next class. Love you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you in a minute.
Tonight, the thing is to
So we get to